everybody. Welcome to high school writing class. I just wanted to start off by giving you a few notes about how this class is going to work. I think I've written it down also on the website, but in case I haven't or in case you missed it, what you're going to do is every week, probably Monday, log on to the Keeping the Course website. You will read what it says. Sometimes I'll ask you to read something and then watch a video like this, and then I'll give you your assignments. I'll give them on the video, and I'll also write it down, and then you've got usually, I think, all week to work on those assignments. If you have questions, you can push reply into the message that I put, the post that I put in the message board, and ask your questions there. You can start a new thread in the same board. It's okay. If you are nervous about asking me anything in public, there's a little button that says private message, and you can send me a private message and ask your question. So hopefully one of those will work for you. You will also, when the assignment is completed the next week, assignments are usually due noon your time on the next Monday. You will email me with your assignment attached. Assignments need to be done in a word processing program like Word, and it needs to be Word compatible. So if you don't have Word, that's fine, but as long as I can read it in Word, that will work just fine. And you will email it to me. I will look it over. If it's something that needs correction, or if I need to give you feedback on it, I will do that. I can write a little note on your draft, and I will email it back to you, and we'll go from there. Some assignments you won't need any feedback. You just turn them in, and I'll write down that you did them. Probably that you did it fine. If there's a problem, I'll let you know. So you'll have some feedback how you're doing in the class. All right, this class in general, what is it for? What's it going to do? What are my hopes for this class for you? One of the big ones is just to sharpen your writing skills, including punctuation and grammar and so forth, even though we're not going to major on grammar or even punctuation, although we're going to have a punctuation mark of the week just to sort of refresh your memory. And some punctuation marks have sort of unusual situations where something is right or wrong, and you wouldn't necessarily know that unless you'd studied it. And one of my many hats in life is that of an editor, and so I come across these situations a lot. And really knowing how and where to use certain punctuation marks sets you apart as someone who really knows what you're talking about, or you're very well educated if you know how to use these things correctly. So we'll work on that. We're going to work on skills that will help you if you go to college writing skills, including how to write a timed essay. A lot of exams in college, especially in the humanities, you'll get to your exam and there'll be a question, and they'll say, write 2 to 3 pages on this topic, and you just need to go and get it done. So we'll do a little bit of that. We'll work on giving you strategies for organizing information, and also help your evaluation skills. We'll be doing some exercises evaluating different things and help you to think critically and to be able to compare and evaluate in a way that's effective. So we're going to do that. Another element of the class is journaling, and this isn't the kind of journal like a diary where you write down what you did today and how you feel about it, that kind of thing. This is just basically a free writing assignment. I'll give you a topic. Actually, I'll give you all the topics on the Monday for the week, and I'd like you to do one every day. And you need to write, I think I said 500 words or so, and you need to be able to write that much. You shouldn't spend hours on it. It should only be 5 to 10 minutes of writing. I'm not going to grade on grammar. I'm not going to grade on punctuation. I mean, do the best you can with that, but don't worry about it. I'm not grading on it. And you also need to do one every day. If you miss a day, then just miss it. Don't try to catch up. I don't want someone, Sunday night frantically writing 5 journal entries. you just need to do one every day. And if you miss it, you miss it. I'll give you a couple freebies. You won't destroy your grade like that. But it needs to be a daily discipline, a daily exercise to do that. It also needs to, it doesn't need to be formal writing. You don't need to act like you're writing a dissertation or something. It can be pretty informal. However, the other papers that you write do need to be in more formal academic language. I don't mean use the largest words that you can find and act like you're a college professor, but don't use contractions like don't or can't or things like that unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't use you know, or the way I feel about it is unless you're given an assignment, for example, like a book review, where you do need to say, in my opinion, and then it's fine. But in general, you need to stay away from that, and that would be more formal writing, and that's what we're going to be doing in this class. All right. Probably most of you have written some kind of paper before now, but I am going to teach you as if you've never written anything. So if you haven't written anything, you're in luck, because I'm not assuming that you know anything at all about writing nonfiction, informational type papers for a school. One thing we need to consider when we talk about writing is, what is your goal? What is the goal of writing when you write something? And I think there's two main things. One is having something that's worthwhile to say, and then being able to communicate that clearly to your readers, to your audience. And all the technical stuff that we talk about, having a thesis statement, having an outline, using proper punctuation, all those things, those are important because organizational strategies, all those things, that's what helps you communicate clearly. It will help you know what you're saying is important and worth saying, and then help you communicate that clearly. So that's the goal of everything that we do in this class. All right, now I want to talk about some sort of global, large-scale planning. You know, when you try to clean your car, you don't start off with a little Q-tip on the dashboard and try to clean the nooks and crannies. I mean, first you wash the car, and then you vacuum it, and you do some big things, and then you get to the details. So we're going to talk about the big picture first, and then later on we'll get to how to reduce wordiness and how to not rely too much on adverbs and things like that. So one of the main things when you're going to write a paper, everyone says, well, what's your paper about? And you can usually summarize that by saying, I have this thesis statement. I have a sentence that explains what my paper is about. It's a main idea. And it's important because not only does it tell the reader what to expect, sort of like a contract between you and the reader, saying this is what I'm going to tell you, and the reader says, okay, I'll be listening for that. But also, it keeps you and it keeps your paper from rambling in all different directions, all about different topics. It keeps you focused on what you're supposed to be focused on. Now, if you haven't already read the paper that I attached to the first assignment that's called Inventors, I said to read it before you watch the video. So if you haven't done that, stop the video now and read it. And even if you've read it, I think I said print it out and keep it in front of you. So if you haven't done that, do that now, stop the video and go do that. And if you've got it in front of you then, look it over and think about, could you come up with, if someone said, what's this paper about, could you come up with one sentence or one statement that is what this paper is about? What's a thesis statement for this particular paper? Could you do that? Now, stop the video again and just think about that. What is that video, I'm sorry, what is that paper about? What's the thesis statement for it? Okay, if you thought about it, if you came up with something, good for you, because I couldn't. I had a really hard time coming up with one particular thesis statement that would incorporate everything that that paper said. It wouldn't really be a true thesis statement. There's an awful lot of different topics covered in that paper, but they don't all point to a single theme. Now, so you can see one problem with this paper is that it doesn't have one cohesive theme. Now, another issue is once you have your thesis sentence, you make an outline for your paper. Now, I'm sure you've seen an outline, even if you've never had to write one. For example, supposing I had to write a paper on great white sharks, right? So I'd start off saying, okay, great white sharks. Okay. And I'd say, okay, what am I going to say about them? Okay, well, point one, how about general information? Like, point A, what they look like. Okay, and number two, maybe what they eat, huh? Okay, things like that. And, you know, habitat. Okay, something like that. And then I'd say, okay, point two, popular thinking about sharks. And I'd say, point A, you know, Jaws. I know nothing about great white sharks. I'm making this up from the top of my head. But, and they smell blood from, you know, 5 miles away or something. And I'd have a third point, something about like threats against them. Like hunters and disease, something like that. Okay, so you've seen this kind of outline before, where you have your topic, you know, your main points, all the subpoints, all that kind of stuff. All right. In a short paper that would be 2 or 3 pages long, each of these little subpoints would probably be its own paragraph. And each paragraph would be focused on one particular topic, and they would probably have its own topic sentence just for that paragraph that would explain what that whole paragraph is about. Now look at the paper about inventors again. Look at the second paragraph there, where it says, take a few inventors, for example. They were not born supermen. They are just like you and I. If there is a difference between them and us, they are the ones who make more efforts and spend more time than we do. Edison is one of them. Most of the inventors kept on concentrating and never gave up, no matter how many times they failed. This is what makes the difference between the great inventors and us ordinary men. Okay, hardly Pulitzer Prize-winning prose there, and there's a lot of things that I would change about it. But could you find a topic sentence for that paragraph? Even if it's not one that's already written, I mean, could you come up with a sentence that would cover pretty much everything in that paragraph? You know, and I think you could. I mean, I think the main idea is great inventors are ordinary people who work harder than the rest of us. That seems to be what almost every sentence contributes to in that paragraph. And, you know, there's things that, like I said, I would change the one sentence about Edison. It could be expanded, and maybe you could come up with other people as well. But it's actually a pretty cohesive paragraph. So if you went like that and took every paragraph in that paper and came up with a topic for each paragraph, could you do that? And you'd end up making an outline of the paper. So what I would like you to do right now is turn off the video and do that. I would like you to look at every paragraph, and for each paragraph, write one sentence statement that sort of summarizes what's in that paragraph. If you can't think of one, if you can't pick out one sentence already written that does that, make up your own sentence. But come up with one sentence for every paragraph. Okay? Go ahead and do that. Now, if you've done that, I'll just tell you what I came up with. Okay? I came up, for paragraph 1, I have, we owe a debt to inventors who have made our lives easier. And then number 2, I already said, great inventors are ordinary people who put more time and effort into their work than we do. Number 3, I said, everyone is an inventor. Number 4, God wants everyone to be an inventor. 5, we can't be content with the inventions of our ancestors. 6, you must invent new things. And 7, you must only invent beneficial things. Okay, you might have come up with something slightly different, which is fine. But if you see it all written out like that, you can see there's not a lot of unnecessary repetition in these paragraphs. A lot of sort of saying almost the same thing over and over again, and then paragraphs that don't really have anything to do with each other. So basically this is a bad paper. Okay, this is not a paper you'd really want to turn in for a grade. And if the person who wrote it had done an outline and planned it a bit, they might have seen some of these problems. Now, sometimes writing down everything that you can think of about a topic is a really good way to start. It's called brainstorming. Think through every idea that comes to your head, write them all down. Some people use a list, some people just sort of sentence after sentence like this. Whatever. But you come up with as many ideas as you can, and then you go back through those and you reject all the ideas, even if you don't even have a thesis statement yet. But you say, okay, look, all these ones kind of fit together. I see they go together. I could make a paper about those ideas, and here would be the thesis statement. And then you can reject all the others that don't fit in with that theme. But you've already done some sort of sorting and throwing out and winnowing through your ideas. And so that would be a bad paper, we already talked about, but it would be a good beginning. And then once you did that, and we work on some other issues, wordiness and things like that, that we'll talk about in future weeks. So, I am going to talk now about your assignment for your assignments for next week. Okay, one of them is the journal writing. So go ahead and follow the instructions for that. I meant to say, for journal writing, you don't need to turn it in every week. Okay, we'll just save it, put it in one document, and just add to it every day. And at the end of the course, you will turn in the whole thing. Okay. One of the things I would like you to do for this week is to take what you just wrote, the outline that you came up with for the inventor's paper, and type it out, or if you haven't already typed it, and pretend, so show me what you came up with, how the paper is now. Then pretend that the writer came to you and said, here's my paper, what do you think? I think I need help. What would you tell them to do for advice? Help them come up with what you think would be a good thesis statement that would incorporate some of the stuff they've already got in here, and then show them maybe a better outline. Take some of their points maybe and make an outline that would include that, and then what parts are you just going to reject and say, this doesn't fit with the paper, we're going to save it for another essay or something like that, okay? So, also, I want you to, there's another worksheet I gave you, not a worksheet, but it's a handout. It's called Rules for Teachers, it says, 1872. And what I would like you to do is pretend that you're going to have to write a paper on this. Now, I'm not actually going to make you write the paper on this, but I would like you to think through it, come up with a thesis statement and an outline for whatever you would like to do with this information. Some people might look at it and say, oh, well, I can see it's very different from rules for today's teachers, and here are some of the differences generally. Obviously, I don't just want to read listings of rules because I have that, but or you might talk about the priorities that were in place for teachers. What were the education board most concerned about for their teachers, and so forth. And if you want to compare that to today, you could, or if you just want to leave it as a historical idea, that's fine. Or anything else you can think of. Okay? And so you need to come up with a thesis statement and an outline. It doesn't need to be a detailed outline. If it was only 3 points, A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3, without any subpoints, still, that's okay. If you want to do subpoints and everything, great. You can make it very elaborate if you feel like it, but if you don't, that's okay. I just want you to get the idea of coming up with a thesis statement, an idea, and organizing the information in some way. Okay? The last thing is the apostrophe worksheet. That should be fairly self-explanatory once you read it and follow the directions. I think that is all I really needed to tell you. So, like I said, if you have questions, please reply on the message board or shoot me an email or something, and hopefully hopefully that was helpful. Okay, I'll see you next week.